I'm going to call this meeting to order. Want to open the meeting of the Marshfield Conservation Commission on June 1st, 2022. May I have a second?
Second. Bert.
All in favor?
Aye. 4:00, Joe arrives soon.
Okay.
That's a quorum.
I have no particular notes to address before we begin tonight, other than that Commissioner Ring expects to be about 15 minutes late. He will be joining us. So on to business items. The first business item is our de minimis activity roll, and we have none at this time.
Correct.
Our
Quick report on that. So what happened was we had several building permits that we were reviewing, and we needed additional information. We reached out and they didn't provide it, so we have a follow-up for that. I think on this coming Friday, we'll address that. And hopefully these people will respond. Otherwise, we're gonna have to refer this back to the building department at some point for them to resolve. So we'll give them another 2 weeks or so and see what happens. So we're working our way through and matriculating through.
All right. Thank you. Item B2 is a potential new conservation commissioner. We have Mr. John O'Donnell here to talk with us tonight, and I have met with Mr. O'Donnell. I think you all have seen his resume and the material he provided us. So now is an opportunity to talk to him and see whether we think he's the proper fit for us, and we're the proper fit for him, maybe more importantly. So, John, would you like to just give a brief introduction of yourself, or?
Sure. John O'Donnell, live off of Spring Street, a new development over there, Horseshoe Farm, Paul Gallagher's development. Moved there 4 years ago, out of Norwell. Lived there for 25 years.
What's your actual address there, John? We kind of have to have that. What is the actual address there?
Oh,
Is it
9 Cottage Lane.
9 Cottage Lane, beautiful area.
So, I mean, very briefly, my background is I spent 30 years with the U.S. Department of Transportation's Research Center up in Cambridge, Mass. They have a independent research center. It was established by John Volpe in one of the old NASA buildings that were built in anticipation of the Electronics Research Center being built up in Cambridge behind MIT. And what we were was an independent research facility. We weren't modal oriented, so we weren't aviation or highway or transit or pipeline safety. We were set up to do a multimodal independent research, so we worked like a consulting firm within the US DOT. I was hired to work on automotive fuel economy standards back in 1977. And then over the course of my career there, I did a lot of economic analysis, regulatory analysis, cost-benefit analysis. At the end, I oversaw about 160 people, $15 million worth of research on transportation safety, transportation planning, things like that. I also spent some time at MIT working on a motor vehicle project in the late 80s. And that's where I became friendly with this fellow, Jim Womack. And so in '07, when he realized I was eligible to retire from the federal government, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So after 30 years in DOT, I went over and worked for an organization called the Lean Enterprise Institute. And that was a nonprofit whose purpose was to help people understand essentially the principles behind the Toyota production and management system. So I did that for about 12 years, helped them set up institutes around the world and managed LEI for a couple of years. And I retired the end of 2018, spent a little time with them trying to set up a scholarship program in universities, which kind of got sidetracked by COVID. And that came to an end. So pretty much from mid-2019, about 3 years ago, I've been fully retired. Mostly playing golf as much as I can, in the warm weather. And basically the background is Horseshoe Lane did a lot of interaction with the town about getting the streets approved. Danielle Voss was one of our trustees. She caught the eye of the people in the town of Marshfield. She's a very competent, very smart woman. and they made her an offer that she did refuse. She said she wasn't interested in the Conservation Commission, but in the back of her head, she says, well, I know John, and John might be interested. So she called me up and said, I'll put your name forward if you're interested. So we talked a little bit, and I said, well, I'll kick the tires. And so I met with Bill, and I don't know, did you buy me lunch or did I buy my lunch?
I'm not gonna say, because I don't remember.
I don't remember that.
I think
We had a nice
you probably judged it
conversation.
with Craig when you met her too.
And then I bought Craig coffee at Starbucks, and she offered, but I
I
paid.
tried.
As long as it wasn't a $50 cup of coffee.
I
you're
tried,
okay.
yep.
Enough of that though, we'll move right along.
So after those two meetings, you know, I said, okay, I'll, you know, continue to look at the process and see if I'm a good fit with the commission. And so that's why I'm here today, I guess, to meet the commission and see how things work and answer any questions.
Right, I had a really enjoyable meeting with John as well. Danielle spoke highly of him, and everything she said was right on. As a person, he just seems like somebody who would fit in with the unit personally. You know, obviously, you know what you guys learned for conservation is a steep curve, but we have a system in place, and he's also a system organizational type of individual as well, which could potentially bode well for what we're trying to do. One of the things that I brought to bear was to come up with modernization of the office. It's paying off. Liz is a big part of it. Mike is a big part of it. We've done scanning, but we're still cumbersome and paper heavy. And how to get those things trimmed down so that they're more bulletized, simpler, easier to digest. He's a guy who could actually fit in with that kind of logic. So beyond the conservation, there's also that I identified. I think Craig and I discussed that a little bit as well. So I like him personally. I think he's a good person. So whatever the commission says, whatever the commission says.
I just have one quick question. I mean, welcome, thank you for considering this. How would you describe your motivations to do this, to join the Concom team?
Well,
I mean, do you have a history of volunteering, coaching kids' sports?
Well, yeah, I volunteered through. We have one son, and you know, through that I volunteered in the. I'll get to a point. You know, for coaching. You know,
Yeah.
sports. You know, I did. I told Bill. I said in Norwell. During that process, I got friendly with a guy. Who was on the Board of Selectmen in Norwell, and they had an opening on the Transportation Commission in Norwell. And he said, well, John, you know, you're transportation. I said, you know, I look at it at a national level. It'd be kind of neat to look at transportation at a local level, you know, where the rubber hits the road. And so I went, and I guess I was on the commission. I went to about 2 or 3 meetings, and I saw how they functioned, how they dealt with issues. And I said, you know, thanks, but no thanks. I mean, it seemed like a waste of time. And so, you know, I'm not interested in doing, you know, something that, you know, I don't think is purposeful or solving problems. And so that's, I kind of chuckled when you said volunteer. I play golf down at Plymouth Country Club, and pretty much as long as I've been there, I've never wanted to be on the board of directors, but I like to work on some of the committees because there's work to be done. And so
Right.
I like, you know, doing work as opposed to sitting around meetings and just talking with no facts, no data, no problem solving. So, yeah, over the years I've done, I wouldn't say I've done as much volunteer work as maybe I should have, but, you know, I've been out of work for 3 years. I like to keep the mind, you know, active. Word will only get you so far in terms of keeping the mind active, so.
Yeah. Have you ever sliced a tee shot into the wetlands?
I have, but I did not go in and retrieve the golf ball.
Okay, that is the right answer, sir. Not without a permit, right?
It was a Pro V1.
Anyone else have any questions for John, or any
Not-
comments?
Not a question, but just a statement or disclaimer.
Yep.
No relation that I'm aware of within 4 generations.
I understood that there is a quota, that 2 O'Donnells on a board would be okay, you know, but no more than 2.
We vetted that out, Bert. We took that into consideration, so.
Oh,
I thought it
no.
was an interesting component. Bert has got a rich history here. He goes back, what, 3 or 4 generations?
Well, more than that.
Almost Mayflower. I'm sorry to.
Yeah, so I think I was telling this, so it would be kind of full circle. I wound up on the South Shore. I'm a North Shore guy, Cambridge North Shore guy by birth and parents. And then when I got married, my wife was teaching at Plymouth. So that's why I wound up on the South Shore. And the first house that we bought and we built it was on Pine Street. Bob Jr. house up from St. Christine. And so we lived there for about 3 or 4 years, and then went to Hanover, and then eventually, my wife's in education, so we wanted our son to go to Norwell schools, nothing against Marshfield schools, but, so now it's kind of interesting, full circle, I've come back to Marshfield. I've been living, for 4 years now off of.
We have more resources than Norwell does
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, no,
protect.
don't get me, not based on the tax bills I paid in Norwell, so. You know, Greg.
Yeah, I know, I
I
moved
lived
from
there too, I can
Norwell.
relate to that, the rates were outrageous, but, they were pushing hard in the school system then, but I think when you get here, you realize the school system's really exceptional here too, so.
Yeah.
Once you see it, like the kids here that come out, they're helping us out with the MCTV and so on, they're top notch, so.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with many things, also their woodworking, they do great jobs on our kiosks and things that they build, they do a really tremendous job, so. It definitely has a good system in place.
So when I met with John, I had a conversation with him about, what's required here. That as a volunteer position, this is a fairly heavy lift. It's not I think I'll get on that board and, show up once a month or something. So I think, you have a clear idea, and I think you have seen some of our meetings, and
Yeah.
you know what
And that's-
transpires.
Yeah,
You know what you're getting into.
Yeah, but I'd like to do things that's work as opposed to, do work as opposed to sitting on.
I can help you with that, right?
Then I think you've come to the right place.
Yeah.
Even Mike knows it, he just got here a couple months ago.
Yes, Mike, I don't know if you've met Mike. This is our new conservation agent.
Oh, hi, Mike.
It's me.
So he's just come on board too. And does anybody else have anything they want to ask or say or? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you for considering us.
Yeah, and it's a two-step process. What happens, multi-steps to get to here, and then the commission does a review, and then based upon that review, they will either advance it or not advance it to the select board for further consideration by and vetting by the select board, because everybody gets appointed ultimately by them. So that's the next thing, if the commission is satisfied, and if you're still interested, which we.
And then we negotiate salary and.
Exactly, your salary, and then your the package.
It's the big bucks, yeah.
Don't expect to make more than we're making.
Yeah, new hires get more.
Okay, so there's nothing more to do on this one right now?
Yep.
You do have an item later on to consider if you're interested, so I guess you're on to B3.
Okay, we're on B3, which is Policy and Procedure Guide revision to diamond pier footings to support generator stands, sheds, or egress/ingress access in the AE floodplain only.
That should be X floodplain and AE. I made a little mistake there, because when I did this, I didn't think about the fact that the buffer zone might need a de minimis, and it could be in an X zone. So Mike and I were talking about that, and I'd like to suggest you add the X,
All right, we will add the X. We had decided previously that we could call de minimis use of these piers in various flood zones, but it came to our attention from Andrew Stewart, our building commissioner, and was seconded by Andrew Poyant at DEP, that using this de minimis on velocity zones and AO should be decided on a case-by-case basis. And I believe that at our last meeting, we concurred with that.
Yes.
So, to that end, we are now voting to refine the policy from September 21st, 2021, establishing parameters for generator stands and sheds and any other structures as follows. If the proposed work is considered de minimis, a de minimis activity is approved in X or AE flood zones, floodplains. If the proposed work is considered de minimis, either a de minimis activity or a conservation permit, an RDA, an NOI, or a request for amended orders of conditions is required in AO floodplains. The conservation administrator or agent will make this determination. Any questions or concerns shall be referred to two conservation commissioners for consultation and final determination. And lastly, if the proposed work is considered de minimis, a conservation permit, RDA, NOI, or request for amended orders of conditions is required in AO floodplains. I move that we vote to revise the policy and procedure guide pertaining to generator stands, sheds, landings, utility lines, and other structures to reflect this. May I have a second?
Second.
Joe?
All in favor? Aye.
Noting for Chris Sullivan that Joe Ring arrived at 8:34, or 6:34. Thank you.
All right, business item B4, SE 422819, Bryant's Middle and South Street seawall construction easement activity review. Would you like to explain this one, Bill?
Sure,
You have been working with the town engineer.
Yeah, sure, and Craig, you also have been actively involved in it. Thank you for all your support on that. Basically, we've been working with the building commissioner, the town engineer, assistant town engineer, Rod Procaccino, Shirley Swanson, and Andrew Stewart. Basically, we have a project, SE 422819, which a lot of people have seen. It's a large-scale revamping of the seawall down by the World War II tower. And long story short, when you're doing a project of this scope, you're going to have impacts on both sides of the seawall. So any structures that were on the upland side of the existing seawall got removed or placed, or some of them got damaged. There were storms that took place that impacted several things. 5 decks were identified by the town as possible items in advance of going to this work that would be considered for for permitting. They were at 9 middle, 15 middle, 17 middle, 19 middle, and 11 south. And so they're in different stages of getting approvals. One actually has an old order of conditions that was connected to it, so it had certain parameters on it. The building commissioner was pretty specific, and he provided details on all the different decks and so on. But it's really these 5 right now. And we wanted to provide a methodology for future ongoing conditions that might change and require attention. For example, the ocean does weird things. It might dig under a specific spot, and they have to go in with heavy equipment on that specific spot. A deck might get damaged again down the road. So being able to manage it with ongoing conditions under this permit would help out a lot to that homeowner. Otherwise, that homeowner might have to come back and do a brand new NOI when the town was down doing work on the seawall. So there are easements and there's right of entries that have been established with all these properties. The town, the DPW provided that to us. We're working within a footprint that, needs to be periodically addressed for maintenance or whatever. There might be a crack. So what this does is it brings that entire area in and the ongoing conditions that may happen and impacting any structure that's currently existing in these areas. It doesn't mean that somebody can then go and take advantage and put a new super deck into the area or so on. They're going to need a brand new NOI. So it's only these 5 decks right now that they're addressing, and then ongoing conditions where the town, its work impacts the existing structures, whatever it's going to be in this area. Otherwise, they'll be looking at brand new NOIs property by property. And it's all located in the VE floodplain, Berry Beach coastal dune. So we're not looking at de minimis here due to the policy we just approved and according to the conversation between the building commissioner and the Mass DEP circuit rider. And that being said, I don't think there's a lot more to it. I think we want to tackle this as de minimis, but the scope is pretty intense, so I think a request for amended order conditions is light duty. It's considered minor compared to the big work. It's appropriate, and it would make it permittable and would have ongoing conditions.
Any questions or comments?
No?
Great.
In that case, I move that we vote to require the submittal of a request for amended order of conditions to address the de minimis activity work and ongoing maintenance along the upgraded footprint of the seawall under the approved orders of conditions SE 422819. May I have a second?
Second?
Rick?
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, it's 500, great. Okay, and so they'll get that tackled, and they'll submit, and we'll see it, and it'll be done.
Okay.
And this allows the work to go forward now to close out. The commission has now shown, it's supported. I know that the request for amended order of conditions is what the commission wanted, because each one of you individually addressed that in writing on an email to me. So we're moving forward, allowing the project to get completed with the funds that are available, and get this thing all complete. The request for amended order of conditions is going to sort of be an after the fact. We just missed the timing of it, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Item B5, SE 422779 at 176 Bay Avenue, a new gazebo, new snow fence, after-the-fact fire pit, and unpermitted tree cutting. And I believe Mr. Tallis is here to address this. Would you like to explain?
Could you just give us your address, Mr. Tellis? I know it's redundant.
Bill William Tallis, 176 Bay Avenue.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. I actually bought this property in 1984 as a summer resident. My wife passed away 4 years ago while we were Brigham and Women's, and she was ill. The pipes burst on the second floor and really demolished the house. So I rebuilt it since then. I actually brought an aerial photograph of the area, which was taken in 1990, and this was when in Green Harbor, approach you, you'll see Mr. Bucieri had bought property in here, constructed a house, added a second story to a 4-unit apartment building, demolished the house next to me and built a new house. And my house was an 1,100 square foot beach house, which was great because it never bothered my wife or me. Kids track sand in. It was basically a parking lot when I bought the property. And we were way out in the corner of the property. There was a little hot dog stand back then. And we give the location where it is, the neighbor, Kathy Sullivan, has a gazebo out there. When I bought the property, my first concern was that there was so much activity. I actually planted the trees, of which I've cut down, and I actually brought some pictures because I have a proud picture of Daddy planting these trees. That was me in July of 1984 with the trees that I planted alongside. And if you can see, this is the area. Actually, I'll give you all the pictures.
Pass them down.
I did put in a little garden to grow some vegetables at one point. But I planted a row of trees. They were Japanese black pines. I bought them at Kennedy's. I was young, so I enjoyed digging and planting. And I would say that the attritional rate was probably about 40% of those trees would die, and then I would replant them. But finally, I got a nice screen. When I was rebuilding my house, I was aware that my next door neighbor, Mary McCarthy, who lives at 184, and she bought her house in 1990. She has multiple sclerosis, and she's barely ambulatory. She has a stair lift in her house, and she has no ocean view. So my sin was this. I took this picture from Mary's steps, and there's a cargo container of some sort that has been in front of her house. And I'm very sympathetic because of what I experienced personally, the fact that she's not mobile. And I said, Mary, I will cut my trees back to the fence line, because there was a fence that Dick Bucieri had put in. So I cut the trees back to 6 feet so that she'd actually have an ocean view. I did that in March of this year. All the trees are still alive. And I look at them and I say, well, they're 84, and I'm 54, and we're all still here. So, and I did speak to Bill, and he said, you really should have talked to us. So I apologize for that, but my motivation was really just to give her an unobstructed view of the ocean, because all of the houses really look in an angle towards the ocean. So that's what I did with the trees. I'm hoping that the trees will survive. Actually, I loved it because it really gave privacy to the yard, but poor Mary spends most of her day on her first floor. All of the neighbors in the area, Tony Baris, Dawn and Beth Trainer, we help her with trash, we help her with errands, because she's not mobile. And even though it's 2 or 3 steps for her to get into her house, she can't do that. So that was my motivation for cutting the trees, which I actually planted.
Your main reason for coming in was a gazebo, right? And then we kind of delved
Yes,
off.
my main reason was I wanted to put a little gazebo on the property. It's small in space, and I spoke to Don, I forget his last name, at the company. I think he spoke to you and
Right.
then sent me in. So I wanted like a 10-foot square gazebo, which would be a small sitting area, a little closer to the water, where Mary's house, my house, the trainer's house is. Over time, there's been an accretion of soil. So we're 500-600 feet away from the water. We're a good distance. So I wanted to put a little gazebo. The gazebo would be put inside a wall which runs adjacent to an easement, which is for the condo people in Mary McCarthy to get to the beach. There's a white wall. So it would be inside that. It would also be inside to my right, your left, the retaining wall, the concrete retaining wall, which protects all of the homes all the way down to the Duxbury line. So I don't want it too far out, because common sense dictates the storms, and I've seen enough since 1984 that we have these episodes of storms, even though the houses in my area are better protected, because there's both a height elevation and distance from the ocean. And
Excuse me?
Yes.
We're gonna have to go through all this anyway if we do an amended order of conditions, so I think we all have enough understanding of what.
Yeah, I think
what
Bert's
needs
probably
to be
right. I
done.
could probably paraphrase.
So Bill,
yeah.
just, there is an open order of conditions.
Yeah, it's still
So-
open because of the tolling, so he has that. He wants the gazebo. I picked up the other things which you read about. The conservation markers didn't get put down because his contractor didn't do them, and he, really wasn't his responsibility either. He was there to build a house. The trees got cut, you heard the story, so someone's gotta get fixed. There was a plantings on the plan, so that's gotta get dealt with. He's a green thumb, so maybe we can blend it all together as a request.
Well,
for
sorry to
any
interrupt you, but if we see it on a plan, we'll know where everything is and we can.
I have a call in to the engineer, Bob Crawford, who did the plans. And actually, my late wife and I, 8 years ago, we had an elevation study done because we were thinking this is where we'd like to be and to retire.
Yeah.
So we have kind of contact. He's very familiar with the land.
So what they're saying is that they're looking over whether or not these things can be considered de minimis. So you're in an AE flood zone here, not VE. You're in a coastal beach, Berry Beach coastal dune, and you have all those activities that we discussed, which you've been learning about because you've got the write-up. So is it a de minimis or a request for amended order of conditions? Because he's got an active permit due to the tolling, otherwise it'd be expired.
Opinions?
Probably amended order
I
of
would say
conditions.
amended order of conditions.
Yeah, that was my
Mm-hmm.
same.
And then we can work directly with you when you get that. What it does, it modifies your current a valid order of conditions, but the due date is gonna expire at some point. So we need to be staying in touch. You need to get to know Mike and me, so we can help you through it once you get your permit. We'll give you everything you need. You come see Liz and Mike and me, and we'll move it forward based on whatever the commission says.
Okay.
And with respect to the gazebo, you will need to check into the building department.
Right.
Depending on the size, that may need a building permit.
Okay, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I wasn't sure. I didn't want a big, just
Yeah.
a small-
64 square feet or more triggers a building
A
permit.
building permit, so be aware of that.
Oh, okay.
And you're in the floodplain, so the floodplain administrator, which is the same guy, Andrew Stewart, you'd talk to him about that also. So both things you get covered.
Okay, so I should speak to the building.
Yeah, and he may send you to ZBA, sorry, but that's business, with your resource area plus zoning and so on.
Okay.
So there's some steps. We're part of the steps, and building's part of the steps, zoning's part of the steps. And
Okay.
we'll get you down there.
So I'm going to move that we vote to require the submittal of a request for amended order of conditions to address the proposed gazebo, after the fact fire pit, the tree cutting and vegetated management under the approved orders of conditions SE 42, 2779. May I have a second?
Second.
Joe?
All in favor?
Aye.
You beat you by like just a
Okay,
millimeter.
so, check in with the building commissioner and then come to these guys and they will lead
Okay,
you through,
so-
what we need
Should I
to.
go to the building department?
Yeah, you should go tell them what you want to do with the gazebo and follow his lead too, like you followed our lead. Okay. And then merge the two.
Oh,
Okay?
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing in the picture.
Yeah, no, you
Yeah,
did
that's
nice-
really
I gotta
fun
say,
to
really,
see.
yeah. isn't it?
Well, I felt badly,
That long ago.
you know, for Mary McCarthy, and I planted the trees, so I got, you know, kind of some emotional feelings, even about cutting them back, and they all are alive, so, and that was a few months ago that I
All right.
Okay.
Enough said, right? All right.
did that. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for your
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to table B6 to the end of the meeting,
Fair enough, we're gonna do that?
and
Okay.
we'll carry on with everything else here. We have 4 scheduled continuations. 274 Foster Avenue, SE 42 2958. I move that we vote to continue to August 17th, 2022, public meeting as per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 0 Little's Lane, SE 42 2966. The applicant requested a continuation to 6/15/2022 meeting in writing on May 31st, 2022. I move that we vote to continue to the 6/15/2022 public meeting as per the request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 76 Carolyn Circle, SE 42 2950. I move that we vote to continue to July 20th, 2022 public meeting as per the written request of the applicant's representative on June 1st. May I have a second?
Second.
All
Joe,
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Craig, who was your second on the 0 Littles? It
Uh,
It was Joe.
It was Joe?
Thank you.
I was gonna say it was Susan, but I'll take
It was both of us, but
Okay.
Susan got the one before.
Aye.
it's odd.
It's a tie. Tie goes to Joe on this one.
2205 Main Street, SE 42 2977. I move that we vote to continue to July 6, 2022 public meeting as per the written request of the applicant's representative on June 1st. May I have a second?
Second?
Rick,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now on to the public hearings.
Mike's got the next 3. I'm gonna take a breather, okay?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Don't think we have anything we need to show or anything on these, you know, picture-wise or anything?
Yeah, no, I think we're good. Okay. So, first is a new hearing. I will read the legal ad. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Mary Lou and Anthony Donadio regarding 29 Hartford Road in Marshfield, Mass. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Karen.
So I see all the administrative requirements have been met, and again, this is an RDA for the replacement of an existing deck to a patio constructed of pervious pavers, and also the installation of a 42-foot fence. The resource areas are, it is located within land subject to coastal storm flowage AO3 flood zone. I don't believe there's anyone here to report on this, or is Mr. Donadio here? Well, I'll give a summary of the project, and and you can, Michael has visited the site as well and can add comments. So basically, a demolition permit is still pending, so he has to visit, he needs a building permit for that in order to remove the deck, and I think part of it has already started to be removed, but he was instructed to wait until he gets a demolition permit. The patio replacing the removed deck will be 20 by 30 feet, will be bordering the proposed fence. A cross-section is in your file of the patio surface, and they will be pervious pavers, and it looks acceptable for what we generally allow. The fence is proposed to be open slats with a 6-inch gap at the bottom. So basically, I don't see any negative impacts from the project. And Michael, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, further comments include that it's essentially just replacing the existing deck, expanding it slightly, and the fence itself will only come about halfway up the property between the back of the property, the back of the lot, and the street.
Thank you. Do we have commissioner comments, concerns, or? All right. Anybody from the public here for this hearing, 29 Hartford? All right, well, seeing none, then I would like to make a motion to approve this RDA with a determination, positive number 5 for the bylaw and a negative number 2 with special conditions. And those are mainly about the fence. Would you like to read those?
Yeah,
or-
I'll read them.
Okay.
The standard special conditions apply, ensure best management practices are followed before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits, see conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities, and additionally regarding the fence, maintain a 6-inch gap between the bottom of the fence and the ground surface or separation of pickets to allow water flowage.
Thank you, Michael. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, 49 and 54 Waterman Avenue. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Robert Shaughnessy at 49 and 54 Waterman Avenue, and the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Michael, could you confirm taxes and fees?
Yes.
Okay. I see Bob Shaughnessy and also John Zimmer. Who's presenting this? Is it you, John?
Yes, good evening.
Are you hearing us okay?
Yes, I'm hearing you fine, thank you.
You're a little bit low. Can you raise your volume any, or?
Yes, is
There
that
you go.
any better?
Very
Much
good,
better.
Very good.
Okay, great. For the record, John Zimmer, South River Environmental, on behalf of Robert Shaughnessy. I think most of the commissioners were sitting when these properties came before you, pre-COVID now, so at least a couple of years ago. And that was associated with a fence and some other work that was proposed at the end of Waterman Ave. This proposed work has nothing to do with that previous filing. What we're looking to do under this RDA is basically remove 6 dead Scotch pine trees that are along or within the 49 Waterman Ave property, and then do some restoration plantings, mainly bayberry and beech rose, to basically revegetate some of the buffer zone to a coastal dune that's been impacted through years of folks accessing the beach. And what we're hoping to do is to define a pathway, through the dune to the beach from the end of Waterman Ave, a little better than it is now, to try to minimize the additional impacts in the buffer zone, to that dune. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. There's a planting plan that I provided as part of the RDA, we're just looking to I think it's about 30 bayberry and 30 beech rose to be planted in the buffer outside the 25-foot no disturb buffer. And basically what it'll do is provide some additional structure in the buffer zone, some additional wildlife habitat, and hopefully minimize future impacts to the buffer off the end of Waterman Ave.
Thank you. Mike, your comments on it?
Yeah, the planting plan is pretty straightforward. Essentially, they're taking down some dead trees and just standing larger pitch pines and wanting wanting to replace them with lower shrubs. So the path is well defined, and also the view's not hindered as well. One thing to consider is that there are a lot of red cedars in the area, eastern red cedars, and they have been growing at a very low level as well, so those could be a good planting option additionally. But on top of that, we'd recommend to issue a determination of applicability, +5 and -3, on the condition that Massachusetts DEP gives permission to start the work. I know that things are kind of tied up with the NOI and orders of condition for that site right now. But yeah, we recommend issuing +5 for the bylaw, -3, and standard special conditions apply. Additionally, post 4 permanent conservation markers, and also implement the plantings either in the fall 2022 season or spring 2023 season.
Thanks. Your notes talked about the Japanese knotweed. John, was the intention to get rid of some of those invasives too?
Yeah, there was some invasive species control built into the planting plan, so we could focus on some of the Japanese knotweed that's there within the planting area.
Do you have to have anything in the conditions about where to get rid of that or anything? Is that something you've dealt with before, John? Where do you-
Yeah, it's fairly common. I mean, the standard condition that is disposed of at a
Right.
landfill or an area outside of the commission's jurisdiction is how I've seen it addressed in the past.
Best management practices should cover that.
Okay. And have you previously discussed that Bill's feeling and Michael's is that we should run this through DEP so that we don't get caught up in any further litigation on this? You in agreement with that?
I mean, the previous filing, did include at the end, included some plantings in there. The main issue that's under consideration now is associated with the gate that was proposed, and I think it's been removed since then. I mean, we could run it by DEP with respect to the plantings. The removal of the trees is new, so that portion of the work is not under consideration through adjudication right now. If nothing else, we'd like the ability to remove those trees because they are dead and they do pose a potential hazard to the property. If you want to include a special condition in the determination to that effect, I think we'd be okay with that.
Other commissioners, comments, questions?
I think it would be prudent to confirm with DEP and town council that this will not
Yeah. I concur.
incur any issue regarding the litigation that is still
Right.
open.
How about an ongoing condition for maintenance of invasives? We've got the knotweed and they're gonna do part of it. Shouldn't we consider what happens if it continues to grow back in and then maintain that?
It most likely will grow back in.
Yeah,
It's all over the area.
it's all over the
Yeah.
area.
Yeah,
We don't want them to come
The
back.
only issue with that is we can only control what's within the proposed workspace. We can't manage it outside of the property limits.
Right.
Understood. But you'd probably wanna come back at some point and say, could you get rid of the invasives in this spot? We could give them an ongoing condition now to address that.
Yep, that would be fine.
Good idea. Yeah, that's
I
a
have
good
a
idea.
question on the invasive. Bob Shaughnessy.
Yes, Bob?
Yep.
I mean, even if you take all the invasives out, it just continues and continues and continues to get rid of, to cut that back. And most of the invasives is on, not my property, but the property across the street, Jack Manning's property. And he's had multiple contractors down there trying to cut it back, and it just keeps on coming back. He's got it up on his up on his, in front of his house, and he's been doing a lot of due diligence to cut it down. And I believe that the Conservation Commission was on him to, not cut the stuff down. So I might be mistaken on that, but that, I mean, it is a major problem in that area.
Do any of you think we wouldn't allow cutting a Japanese knotweed?
No,
No.
doesn't make any sense.
I think we're trying to work with you, Bob, to let him continue to cut those, and if you keep cutting it long enough, you'll kill it off.
Yeah, what we don't want to do is put chemicals on it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can I add
Right.
something?
Sure, sir.
I just, I've been reading a lot about knotweed because I deal with a lot of that at the park, and there's new studies out that if you, the more you cut it, if you choose cutting, you may be able to avoid using, the herbicide glyphosate at all. You might not even need it, and the more you cut it, if you cut it 12 times in a season, in a growing season, and it doesn't have to be, or 12 times I think they said was over a year, would need monthly, but sometimes if you cut it more frequently, it's just depending on the growth. It doesn't, the number doesn't matter, but if you continue to cut, remove, that eventually over time, that they've shown that does, it doesn't eradicate it, but it does do a lot in terms of reduction. And one of the things I was reading in the notes is the original complaint that resulted in some of the suit from before was this stockpiling of the cut knotweed on site, and that's actually considered a best practice now. If you, the idea is to, you pile it in, on a tarp in the sun and let it decompose so that those seeds die and that you're not spreading it. So before you come, so if you have the space to do that, many people don't have the space to do that, and if that's what your intention was to let it dry out and decompose on site and then remove it, that is actually considered a safer practice because you're not spreading then anything that can regrow somewhere else, which is a big problem. That's why it's everywhere, because it goes everywhere. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. I just was forwarded that study by the watershed, so I wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm inclined to look favorably on this. Was the idea to go ahead and close the hearing or to continue it?
Yes, go
Close
ahead
the
and
hearing
pending the written approval by
yeah,
the
and
DEP.
I put either DEP or town council.
Yeah.
If town council feels this can proceed, I'm satisfied with that. Others?
Bob Shaughnessy, and I have a question before you close the hearing.
Yes. Go ahead, Bob.
The trees are a public safety issue. And I'm not sure if the cutting of the trees has anything to do with the plantings. So I would really like to get the trees down while you're deciding on the plantings. Because it's a summer issue, people are walking down there and those limbs fall down. It could hurt somebody. It'll be a liability on the landowners, and I really don't want that to happen.
From
I actually didn't make a site visit. I relied on my past visits down there, so Michael.
yeah, I can speak to that
Would
actually.
you consider it a hazard?
The work itself was actually proposed to be the removal of 5 trees, which I'm assuming are the pitch pines and subject, to the left of the path when you're looking at the beach. So those are the ones that are intended to be removed, and then the implementation plan for vegetation to more or less replace them. Is that the right understanding, Bob?
Yeah, we want to have those trees down because I don't want it to fall on somebody.
Right.
And we want to do it before the season.
They were dead standing trees
Yeah.
in relatively poor condition. The majority of them, one was still alive. So,
Yeah, I just don't want to open us up to further litigation and prolong this whole thing, so let's run it by town council, and I think it should be able to proceed pretty quick.
okay.
I'd like to make a motion to issue a positive number 5 and a negative number 3. Have I got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
We didn't get public comment, but I guess there
Oh,
was none.
I'm sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
Yeah, well, actually, before we go any further, was there anybody from the public that wanted to comment on this project?
No.
Okay, that's good, Craig, we got that covered, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, John. See you, Bob.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, another new hearing. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, in the Selectmen's Hearing Room, to consider the notice of intent filed by Stephen O'Neill for 0 Carolyn Circle in Marshfield. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Ring.
Thank you. That was nice timing. So I want to confirm that we do have all administrative requirements, because I understood that as of yesterday afternoon, we didn't have them all.
All administrative requirements have been met.
Okay, so this, as was just summarized, is a new home on a currently treed lot.
Yes.
And it is in a buffer zone to a BVW, and I think that was it. There was nothing else that was out there except a lot of trees and
Yes.
some poison ivy, which I tried to stay very far away
Yes.
from.
Yes, that's right, Joe.
Okay.
I'm Rick Savant,
Rick
representing,
even introduces himself. I like it.
well, I've been in a little while. So yes, we have a vacant lot here on Carolyn Circle. The owner and applicant, Stephen O'Neill, is proposing to put a new structure on this. It's currently wooded lots, mostly deciduous trees, big trees, but it is fully wooded. The sloping lot slopes downhill towards the river. And there's a BBW that pretty much runs down the whole easterly side of the lot. It was flagged by Pine Brook Consulting. We have all the buffers on the plans. The proposed structure is located outside the 75 feet. We've really stuffed everything into the corner and got everything as far away as we could. The leaching system is over 100 feet. It's outside the 100-foot buffer, the entire leaching system. But a good portion of the house is within the 100, but all of the house is outside the 75. As well as the paved driveway, this proposed is also outside the 75 feet. Comes down from the upper portion of Carolyn Circle and heads down, hugs that westerly lot line. I have shown all the coverages on the buffer zone coverage table there. We have quite a bit of buffer area on the lot, 35,000 plus square feet of buffer area. And we're proposing to cover about, well, exactly 3,421 square feet of it. This is about just under 10% of the buffer zone area that we have. So we have erosion control proposed, basically wrapping around the whole easterly side of the site. It's going to be worked, all the proposed grading, and at the 50-foot buffer, protect anything from washing into the resource area there. Like you said, Joe, there's no other resource areas that I'm aware of. There's no flood zones for once or anything like that. It's just a buffer to the BBW that we're dealing with, and we did the best we could to keep everything as far away as possible.
Looked like everything was well outside of the 75. We got it all shoehorned into the corner of it.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're pretty much at minimums to the sideline of the property, as close as the house can get, as close as it can get to the leaching facility. Same with the leaching facility, it's jammed up against the sideline. All compliant, but right at the requirements.
Mike, you the one who?
Yeah,
looked at it?
I went out there, the wetland delineation seemed accurate, no complaints on our end. The site was as depicted, as provided by Mr. Savant here. Yeah, we suggest to issue an order of conditions with the following conditions. Register both sets of orders with Plymouth County and the Conservation Office, post the Mass DEP sign, obtain all subsequent permits. The applicant shall note that no work shall commence until all applicable administrative appeal periods have elapsed, post 5 permanent conservation markers. The applicant shall notify the building official at least 1 business day before the start of work. During construction, ensure best management practices and building codes are followed. Ensure erosion controls in place and do not use hay. Additional ground surfacing not shown on the plan noted in section A shall require Conservation Commission review. Post-construction, at the conclusion of work, record the plan of record and seek approval from the Conservation Administrator or agent. Any erosion control shall be removed and the site shall be stabilized, and any additional ground surfacing not shown in the plan noted in section A shall require Conservation Commission review. And these conditions remain in perpetuity.
So did you guys figure out a location for the 5 markers? Mike, you want to work with Joe on that? Maybe.
On the 50 line?
What do you think, Mike?
It was essentially on the corners of there.
So that'll be your limited clearing too, Rick?
Yeah.
Right, like the other properties we've been doing?
Yep, that's right.
Terry's done the same thing on many properties, so maybe you can enhance that for Mr. Ring, Commissioner Ring, and Mr. Seeley. I would suggest that you can put the 5 on equally distance on the property edges and then work your way in. That's my suggestion.
Sure.
And then also make that a limited clearing, because this is going to be a tough one to get any kind of mitigation permit down the road.
Yeah.
So we want to prevent that, and if these people buy it and sell it, which is happening over in Spring Street right now, we want to make sure that we're protected. It's a nice town, keep it going that way, you know?
Sure.
Does Mr. Ring or Mr. Seeley have a problem with that? Sorry if I stepped in.
Do we need a revised plan?
He will give a revised plan. What is it, 12 noon Friday? Is that what we do?
Yes.
That okay with you, Rick?
Yes, yes.
Any comments for, questions from the commissioners for Mike?
Commissioner Ring, there is a bit of inland wetlands district on the property. So I would recommend that you see the building commissioner and
Yeah.
He had a number of issues that he wanted to make sure were taken care of, so I recommend speaking to him.
Yeah, and we have it shown on plans, you know.
Correct, and I mean,
Call it out, yep.
yep, it's like as Rick is saying, it's right along here, and there's no disturbance going on there, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't check in anyways.
Probably need a special permit,
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
So you can work with the
Yeah.
building department on that.
Right, get that done, and then when you hit the wall and you want to get going, you do the pre-con with Mike or me, and we'll say, have you obtained all subsequent permits, and you'll have it done.
Excellent.
Any comments, questions from the audience or online audience? I can't see online audience. Bill,
Oh,
so you have
I'm
to
very
monitor for
sorry.
us?
Stopping sharing. Is anybody raising their hand? Because I'm not good at this. Is anybody interested in making comments as per Commissioner Ring's request?
I do not see any either place. So I would go back to the position. Any further discussion?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. So I would like to close the hearing and issue the order of conditions as summarized by Mike. And I don't remember seeing the revised plan listed, so I just want to highlight that we are going to get a revised plan
Yes.
with the conservation markers at the 50.
12 noon Friday.
12 noon Friday.
Yes. Showdown.
No
See you
showdown,
then.
but I knew it. I
yeah.
It's just that sees a beautiful thing, you know? That's all. It's just-
Excellent. Thank you very much. Have a
Can you
great
get a second?
Good night.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Susan Karen,
All those in favor?
Aye.
nice job, Rick. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
Remaining to vote negative, I say that carries. Thank you.
All right, next one.
All right, next up, Brewster Road. In compliance with regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, to consider the notice of intent filed by Michael Last for 13 Brewster Road. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Okay, Bill, and to confirm, I see taxes,
Yes.
abutters have been notified, and you have a DEP number.
Correct, we do, and I'm gonna get you the plan momentarily. Terry, you're here, right? There you are. Okay, you get camouflage in, good support there. All right. I think I can get it. Just bear with me. I've upgraded.
So I see a number of people involved in this project. Are you presenting, Terry, or?
I'm going to take the lead, but
Okay.
Terry will be presenting, and Brad is here also as needed. So I'm ready to proceed when you're
Okay, do
ready.
you want to wait until Bill gets that,
Yeah, I'm a little slow
that
there,
up,
Adam.
or do you want to
I'm
proceed?
more than happy to just to give a brief introduction. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local environmental and land use lawyer, and I represent the applicant, Michael Last. You obviously know Terry McGovern, our professional land surveyor, and Brad Holmes, our professional wetland scientist. And this is fundamentally a buffer zone project. We're proposing to raise the existing cottages on the property and construct a new single-family dwelling, driveway, and on-site septic system. The proposed structure is further away from the wetland than the existing cottages and will be located certainly more than 50 feet from the wetland line. A portion of it just encroaches within the 75-foot. The majority of it is outside of the 75-foot buffer zone. The driveway and the septic system are located entirely outside of the buffer zone. And this particular project will be governed by Section 505, 206, 1D2C of your local regulations for land that was previously developed prior to June 20, 2002, which requires that new structures be located 25 feet from wetlands to the maximum extent feasible. In this particular case, we've more than doubled that distance by pulling the house as far away as possible from the wetlands. And so this project does comply not only with the State Wetlands Protection Act, but your local bylaw and regulations. So with that brief introduction, I'll have Terry go through it.
As Attorney Brodsky noted, the new single-family house is sited just touching into the 75-foot setback. It is also, just as a note, the minimum setback from Brewster Road, just a touch over 40 feet, and the minimum setback off the sideline to the abutting property to the north. And the septic system being located on the adjacent, now contiguous parcel to the south is a 4-bedroom design. Minimal raised grading in that area. We're keeping the required 5-foot separation. Again, the system itself is located, and the reserve area are located entirely outside the 100-foot. We're also compliant with the state well setbacks to the abutting properties as well as the local. And again, minimal grading in that area as well as behind the house. We're showing one contour wrapping around the house. And the driveway, being a paved driveway, will come out off the side of the house. That will be outside the buffer zone and return to Brewster Road, pretty much in the location of the paper Georgia Street. We're proposing about a dozen markers. We set them at 25 feet apart roughly, starting at the northerly property line and then pretty much just dovetailing in along the property line as Bill's moving the cursor down. Since the land beyond that is in different ownership, we're going to run those conservation markers across that property line in that location as it transitions from 50 feet to the rear property line. And the only work that will take place inside of that will be the removal of the cottage that camp that exists up closest to the northerly property line, and the one that touches just above Georgia Street, and some minor removal of debris in that area. construction of material and debris that is existing in that area. That's it.
Your comments, Bill?
Okay, so I've been out at the site multiple times, and just recently with Brad, last time Brooke flagged it. Brad was out there with me, had done some transects, so not only did he take wetland delineation based on plants, but he also did several transects. Did we get those reports, Brad?
Yes.
Okay. So, and the new holes that were out there with the transects, with the yellow flags, those were the ones that are in the report, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, long story short, I only had one area this time that I was interested in. It was around here in 17, 18. There had been a willow that fell, and it was a tough area. And Brad had flagged it to what I felt was reasonable. So that was the one area there, based upon my combining the last year's visit with this year's visit. The flags 14 and 15 over here last year got my attention. We took some soil samples. It's all fill material, basically. It doesn't have the properties of wetland hydrant soils, and it's hard to move it based on a few plants. There was a lot of what we call bed willow, and I think we're right in here somewhere, maybe in this vicinity right here, but there wasn't a stand large enough to make it into a 400 square foot isolated vegetative wetland. So we let that go, and if you look, the whole area is completely protected. Nearly 100% of it. You have a septic system over here. There's never going to be a structure. So it didn't make sense to push it any harder than that. The questions that I asked, and I think, Terry, I sent you a little information on the ORW, the Outstanding Resource Water Area. This was based on scenic and protected river, but I recall from your working with Brian Donahue at Goldman on the road project that he had stated somewhere, and I think in that email I sent you, that he felt that that was an over depiction of the resource areas, and it was much further down gradient. And if you could elucidate on that, that would probably put that one to rest. And the last thing is, and I don't think there's any issue here, is will this house in any way, shape, or form tap into the street, the stormwater, or will it require any form of contributing to the maintenance of those like interim cells that you had established near Georgia Road? So ORW and then the two stormwater questions.
So with respect to the ORW first, I remember from roughly a year and a half ago, Brian Donahue's finding that boundary was well down gradient. It was out almost to the bank of the river itself. You can certainly provide proof of that, but that's in your meeting minutes from the back and forth we had with Baker Braden and Barbadoro at the time. With respect to contributing any kind of stormwater to Brewster Road, that area has been taken into account. Anything pretty much from the house through the area of the septic system grading back towards the wetland is going to sheet in that direction, and we had allowed for the area of the front yard to be incorporated into that.
So you calculated that in?
Yeah.
So any impacts, like, and it looks like, look at the impervious table, we're gonna be picking up about 3,500 square feet. That's gonna be the driveway and the house itself. Okay. I'm not seeing anything else that triggers that. I'm not beating up on your table. I just asking the questions while I'm just making the statement. So it's really the house, the deck, and the driveway that might contribute hardscape, possibly additional water into the street.
The house will actually grade around and back, so I think we're okay there. And certainly because of the location, if there were a question about it, we could add a couple of dry wells on the house. If there were a question. They're well beyond the septic system, so to put a couple of dry wells in would be a very minor issue.
Terry, the driveway is located outside of the Conservation Commission jurisdiction?
Yeah.
What we're doing, Adam, is we're linking and asking the questions about the stormwater, the stormwater impacts to the road work. And so every house that goes in that's new would probably get the same kind of question. not to be capricious and arbitrary in any way, shape, or form.
What kind of foundation, Terry?
It's a full pour concrete foundation. We're outside the flood zone, not an issue there.
All right, and then the other thing was the maintenance of those cells. I forgot what you called them. You and Brian had come up with something unique.
Bill, actually, Bill, you're getting ahead of yourself a little bit. Terry, as far as the stormwater system that's required for the road, where was the first storm drain? Was it?
That is down at the bottom end of Chilton, basically at the intersection of Chilton and Brewster.
What would
We have a catch basin that's part of the way up, and then we have the storm scepter and the detention basin and forebay are on the down gradient, if you will, side of Chilton.
So are any of the catch basins?
Because some of that area as you go into Chilton is actually out of the 100-foot jurisdiction from, if you went to the very bottom of the road, it's actually outside the 100-foot buffer as you cross Chilton, as you come along that end of Chilton.
But as far as where the first catch basin is, where is that in relation to the driveway?
It's down at Oaks.
So, okay, so it's below that on the road. So, I mean, it's not us, but I believe planning board will require the road to be paved to the driveway. But
That's a separate filing.
separate filing. But that can be done with no impact on the stormwater equipment that was required under Brewster Road.
Well, again, anything above, which has already been permitted and already have an orders of conditions issued, pretty much anything above that intersection of Chilton Street and Brewster Road, which fell under the planning board's domain and kind of went back and forth between planning and conservation. That's all beyond, and anything that could potentially be done in Brewster is beyond 100-foot jurisdiction. It's outside of the buffer zone entirely.
I would say this, Bert, it's like a subdivision. The whole thing's in, even if you're just going through a wetland and you go to a road or a drainage. So I'd contend that that project, the way it's locked. And so this should sync up with that. If there's, to your point, that's, whatever's going on with any kind of infrastructure here that might impact that should be adjusted here.
Yeah, it could have an impact on it.
Because, I mean, he's got so much room. Let's just say that right now the driveway's on top of where that equipment was going, which I can't remember the name of it. The driveway can get moved very easily, and it's out of our range. So we could just have a special condition that there shall be no conflicts with the Brewster Road infrastructure, because that would be much more difficult to change than this. They have lots of flexibility here.
There's no infrastructure that's going in, to put it plainly, there's no infrastructure, there's no driveway, and there's no part of this project that touches any stormwater management components of that project.
Yeah, I think
Nothing would happen.
one of the earlier versions was in this area, wasn't it?
One of the early versions, we had recharge pits, and that perhaps is what Bill is thinking of.
Yep.
We had recharge pits located at what would be the corner of the paper street of Georgia Street and Brewster Road. And that was through the process of going back and forth with Baker Graven and Barbadoro. Those pits were eliminated. And in that place, we moved those pits down opposite Chilton and put the storm scepter.
Okay. I think we'll be back with this once it goes in front of planning. But as far as the lot itself, any other input from commissioners, questions, comments?
I'd like to throw it out one more time that we're taking Terry's testimony, which is always good. We don't have that to compare to right now. I would recommend a special condition that there shall be no conflicts with the Brewster Road stormwater approved order conditions, and I could just put that in. That way, it's not burdensome. They can get through this permit here, which nobody has a problem with, except maybe if there's an issue with the stormwater, and it's a maybe. That way, it's flexible. It's a floater if there's a problem, And they can always fix it with a request from an order of conditions if they need to.
So I have a different suggestion, which is that I'm not familiar in detail with another order of conditions that relates to another project. So I caution the commission on tying our order of conditions to an order of conditions for another property. I know that the road improvements were related to the development of the lot in the street. I think the commission is protected because you have your standard condition that requires that we obtain all other permits that we need to go forward with the project. So I think you're adequately protected with your general conditions. A special condition that ties us somehow to another order of conditions for a different project, I think is problematic. We'll, as a practical matter, have to work out any conflicts. And if the design, this project changes, we'll have to come back in for an amendment. But I think you're creating more potential conflict by connecting the two projects than keeping them separate. Again, we're not aware of anything that we would need to change, as Terry said, with respect to that. But I think you're adequately protected by your standard condition.
I would just say that we've linked enforcement orders to orders of conditions. We've linked orders of conditions to orders of conditions, but we've never done that with different property owners. The road is Murphy, and that's where I agree with Attorney Brodsky. You can do what you want because you have discretionary authority. Even if it's wrong, you shouldn't do anything wrong, but you can. So, long story short, I hear where Adam's coming from. He does have a point about obtain all subsequent permits, but the commission, if you approve a project and you're supposed to have clear and convincing information, and there's a conflict with the road, I would say that this project changes, not the road.
So just to be clear, the road is not part of this filing. The filing is only for the house with all of the other elements outside of the jurisdiction.
It gets a little.
So that's all we're looking for is an order of conditions for the house.
It gets a little bit more confusing because it's outside the 100, but the commission does have the right to go and consider anything beyond the 100 if it thought it had an impact on the resource area. In this case, it might have an impact on the roadway, the way it's approved, which has a downgraded impact. I don't think we should go on and on with this. Either we go with Adam's approach, the simple way, and say obtain all subsequent permits is sufficient, or work in a special condition that's agreeable to all parties.
Feelings of commissioners on that?
It was a very complicated discussion about that stormwater.
Yeah.
And it went on for quite a long while. I'm not in a position where I can say that this would not or would impact it, although I have to say that these gentlemen have always been great to work with. I don't know what happens if.
I would agree with Adam, or with Attorney Brodsky on this, and not link the two together. Although I know there's been a lot of, I'm anxious to hear what the smiling faces in the back of the room may have to say.
I think,
but
I agree with Attorney Brodsky. I'm afraid
if all the
that-
structure for the stormwater is down the road,
I'm afraid we could
well, that.
create a bigger problem for
I'm
ourselves.
okay with that too, so that's 3. Does anyone want to talk
I
about it?
agree. This
Okay.
is still going through planning. I think this is,
Okay, and the only other thing I'd like to talk about, where we've got the conservation markers on the 50, that's good. As far as this being a redeveloped lot, I think the feeling was that everything on that lot had been condemned, and our 505s, Bill, you can help me on this, but if it's, if there was a previous residence there, it would be considered previous developed. But is,
Yeah, if you have structure, then that gets complicated, and it has to do with the age when that's there. And we've had this on Cove Street. We had something similar where a guy said there's something under the sand and it wasn't found. So if there's a structure in there and you're worried about future development, now's the time to get rid of it.
well, there's clearly structures there, and this new plan, the deck and stairs comes within the 75. Actually, by new construction rules, it should be outside of the 75, correct?
Correct.
but I feel getting rid of those whole structures and the conservation markers,
Well, I guess we should be clear
Reasonable.
here, Bert, just so, there's two things, I'm just looking at it. So number one, to your point, it jumps beyond the, this goes beyond this 75 over, 50 over here. See if I can get this puppy to work again.
I'm saying the deck and the stairs
Yeah.
are within the 75.
Yeah, I know that. I'm doing two things. I'm responding to that. These markers here are beyond the 50. That's a good thing. Everything down gradient of this is going to pick up the new requirements, which are, there shall be no disturbance down gradient, no fill, no structure, no mowing, no nothing. So everything down gradient in this would be out, so that worry that you have of anything showing up, hey, I've got structure down here, that's finished with this order of conditions.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
markers, they define
Yeah.
that there won't be anything in the future.
And then you could give up on this small section here, which is probably several posts and coverage. If they use diamond piers, I think the commission would be pretty elated with that, and they might get a de minimis. But it is, it's got structure, so they've obeyed the 75. I think that's a pretty good wash.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, duly noted.
Other commissioners, any discussion?
Nope.
What's the deck gonna sit on?
The original idea had been to sit it on standard sonotubes, so I mean, certainly a change in support, I don't think is a huge issue.
It's way outside of the flood zone.
Yeah, I know. So sonotubes are probably
They're
okay.
fine, they're, yeah. But the diamond piers are just someone the commission likes a lot, that's all I said.
So, commissioners are satisfied? In that case, I'd like to open it up to public comments. Anybody in the room here like to comment on this project?
My name is Karen Dean, and I live at 12 Rooster Road. And my dining room is directly overlooking this lot. Coming from my family, we would be very, very happy to see a new home built here. Just recently, I spent $5,000 on landscaping on my house, and as you drive down Peregrine White Drive, you can see that everybody maintains their property impeccably. And then you get to this lot of land, and as my 8-year-old calls it, it's like a creepy old haunted shack on the property.
Two shacks.
Two shacks. And he's forbidden to go over there just because it's basically, it looks like it's been neglected for decades. So we would be very, very appreciative to see this cleaned up and have a new house put there instead of
Thank you.
what we see.
Anybody else in the room wish to comment on this?
Obviously, you know, we're all a family that all lives
Your
on the
name
same.
and
Oh,
your
sorry.
address?
Kim Baressa, 188 Peregrine White Drive. And like, we've lived on the land for 21 years, and obviously, like, the resident that was there that passed away, we knew. So it was a home, and I think I second Karen's point of it just would be nice to have, you know, a home built there, because everything else on that street is nice, and it's, you know, homes and the people, it's a great community. And Michael's been great about, like, when the trees fall down in storms, like, he's the guy with the chainsaw, like, taking care of everything for all the neighbors, so we want him on the street, because he's a good resource for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Anybody out on Zoom that wishes to comment on this project? I hear nothing. In that
No.
case,
Wait, have you guys applied to ZBA yet?
There's no reason to apply this.
Yeah.
As far as we know, we don't need any zoning relief.
The building commissioner says there's currently no application with the ZBA.
Conforming as far as I know.
Obtainable permits is where it comes, 310 CMR 1005. I was just looking at his comments, that's all. Well,
Duly noted.
any special conditions, Bill?
it's just a standard, you didn't want to put anything on stormwater, so I think,
How about removal of those old cottages and
well,
everything?
they were removing them anyways, right? There was in the narrative.
Proposing to remove all of them.
Okay.
Right, I saw that they did not put that on the plan, but it is in the narrative, so.
So that and any of the debris in the area from that.
You want me to just put that in anyways, just so we, because they're doing it, it's redundant, but it's that way we got it in the orders. You want that in? Okay,
Yeah.
remove
think they're gonna
all
wanna do it anyway, but.
old cottages, okay, upgradient, okay, structures,
Creepy cottages.
upgradient of the wetlands.
My ancestor Peregrine White may have put those in.
One of your ancestors did?
Bless you.
Okay, I got that
I'd
one.
like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second is Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, on to our final hearing. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, to consider the notice of intent filed by the Sassersons at 12 Branch Street. And the hearing officer is, again, Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Okay. And this is a continuation.
Yeah, they
we-
continued because they're seeking all obtainable
Right,
permits.
we pretty much went through everything. We're waiting for feedback from the building commissioner. What do you have to report?
We last left that you were requiring me to approve the zoning at seen approve the project. So I got, I'm not sure. I provided the decision by zoning.
There was that. Building commissioner sent, the ZBA approval, that continues on.
Correct, and then now
The
we'll
only
file
thing
for
that
the
changed with the
application.
project was the foundation, so he'll have to review the changes. And then we were concerned about, he had a cease and desist on the whole property, but he clarified that to us, that it's accessory apartment built within the garage, so that's not really within our realm. So.
Correct, yeah, so we're just dealing with the home, the 1,200 square foot home.
Yeah.
Right, so he provided evidence, and the building commissioner did respond to me, and he said it had something to do with apartment, that was his concern over there with regards to that. He said all the building permits would be done invalid, they'll be archived. Rich knows this, I explained it to him, and in addition, he's provided evidence, and the building commissioner also did, there's a ZBA permit that carries with the current ownership, that's what he said. So, unless he changed the footprint. So I sent him over our plans that we currently have, which modeled the original plans that Trocki had wanted, and I asked him if it's okay. No answer back, so I'm assuming he's good. I believe they're exact same. I didn't spend time forensically looking at it myself, but he would have let me know if there was concern. Nancy Pacheco also was on that email, so I'm assuming that that's fine. It's meeting their standards.
Yeah.
If it's not, he'll be back for a request from any more.
I think we're covered. So have you got any additional special conditions?
No, we just want to get those conservation markers up early. Like, I forgot to tell the guys on Brewster Road, they're going to be doing the 12 markers early in the process. Same thing here, Rich, it's in the pre-commencement of the work. All right, everything else is standard. Mike just read those off. You're going to need an elevation cert in the back end of it. You're going to need to follow all NFIP FEMA codes because you're in the floodplain and building codes. Let me shut this off here. Sorry, getting me confused on my projects. That's pretty much it. Everything else is standard. Sorry you had to delay. I appreciate you complying.
I was going to finish a couple other projects.
And I make the motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second.
Joe?
Second is Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, see, I told you.
Unanimous, Bill. Thank you.
Work with Mr. Stewart, okay? So you can get through that also.
We'll do those with some.
Yep. All right, take care of you. So come back and see us for the markers. We'll give them to you free.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. All right then.
All right, that concludes the public hearings.
Correct.
On to requests for certificates of compliance and extensions. The first being SE 42-1763 at 459 Highland Street. I move that we vote to table to the June 15th, 2022 meeting, and until the after-the-fact NOI is submitted and approved. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
SE 2426, Marshfield Hills Realty Trust, Rote Marine, 2205 Main Street. We have a lot going on.
So Main
here.
Street is going to be, if you go to the back, it's tabled. They haven't showed up. We are going to have a meeting with Bert and I with Greg Morris tomorrow. I was hoping to have Eric Roth there so we could get everything out finally. And in that meeting, I hope Bert and I will be able to convey to Mr. Morris that we want another meeting and we want Eric Roth at that meeting. So that's what the goal is.
So, wow, this is,
Table, I think. right?
table it?
Table it, yeah.
Okay, I move that we table SE 2426. Do we have a date certain, or I guess we do not, right?
Table that one. Let's see. I think July 6th on the page 27 top of it.
Okay, sorry, didn't,
Yeah.
didn't see that.
You got
I
me
move
worried,
that we
too.
vote to table this to July 6th and until the original orders of conditions are recorded with evidence provided to the Conservation Commission. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
SE 42, 2629 and 2629 amended,
Right.
116 Elm Street.
Can help you. That's what's
Okay, do you want to,
Yeah. So this is when I just first arrived, okay? The only sitting commissioner here was Bert at the time. And Elm Street came in around September 2016. There's no hearing, no conservation administrator at the time. And they came in, and what had happened is Elm Street had a number of issues because they have wetlands in the back. The Inland Wetland District runs through the back of it, and they're just there, they're trapped wetlands. So through hook or crook, these applicants, the Walkers, were trying to do the right thing, and they filed for an order of conditions to be allowed to do a certain amount of maintenance in the backyard without getting in trouble. So they did that, and they came up with 12 that is, orders of conditions, and they requested those. And they're basically mowing, maintenance, 70-foot setback directly from the house so they could maintain everything and put up conservation markers. These were all to be ongoing conditions. Then Ingeborg Hagebrand from BSC, a principal, BSC group, and Adam Brodsky, representing the Walkers, Ingeborg for the town, because there was no conservation administrator at the time, worked on this to solve it. So I arrive and I have one meeting with them, and they've identified a couple of problems. So they go with an amended order of conditions. They add special condition 13 and 14. They modified number 7, and they changed the date of the plan because there was a typo on it. So they fixed all that. So what I'm recommending is that this is ready for closeout. Mike did a great job. He went out and he reviewed the property. He saw the conservation markers were up. He photographed it, and he gave me a report back. He helped me prepare this, but it had a lot going on. So we blended our efforts here. And what I would propose is to vote to approve a complete certificate of compliance for the original parent project, SE 42-2836, which is voluntarily brought forward, and it had nothing to do with work. It's about future activities. SE 42-238-283-836 amended with ongoing conditions. And I can read these all into the record, or we can just accept them as is. Should I read them in the record?
I think we can accept them as is.
Okay. Taking it that all of them are the same except for number 5, and maybe I'll read that one.
Okay.
Completed special condition during approval of the request for certificate of compliance, no further action required. Number 7 was modified with the comments from Ingeborg and Adam Brodsky, and then my oversight. And then Mike and I have added in our standard language about nothing downgradient can take place. There's no activity of any kind that remains in perpetuity. And then we added number 13 and 14. And if you accept that, then we can get this going, get them their certificate of compliance,
All right.
and we'll take care of them.
I move that we vote to approve a complete certificate of compliance for SE 422836 and SE 422836 amended with the ongoing conditions.
As
Those that have been amended have been read into the record by Administrator Grafton. May I have a second?
Second.
All in
Susan.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Joe. I know you wanted that one, Joe, but I gave it to Susan. We'll have our fun, huh?
Okay, SE 2687, 0 Main Street. I move that we vote to approve an extension of the orders of conditions to July 21st, 2024. May I have a second?
Second.
Joe.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Falling asleep.
SE 2723, the Rum Island Trust. This is a causeway to Trounce Island. We have a tolling period that is applicable of 462 days. So I move that we vote to approve an extension of order of conditions until August 14th, 2025. May I have a second?
Second?
Rick.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. SE 2773, 1185 Ferry Street. I move that we vote to table this to June 15th, 2022. May I have a second?
Susan.
All in favor?
Aye.
SE 2791, 76A Marginal. I move that we vote to approve a complete COC. May I have a second?
Second.
Joe.
All in favor? Aye. SE 2804, the Green Harbor Yacht Club on Dyke Road. This is an extension. I move that we vote to approve an extension of orders of conditions to June 11th, 2025. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Going with Joe.
SE 422836, 36 Jana Way. Okay.
I'd like to explain this one.
We have a couple of deviations here. You want to take that, Mike?
Yeah, with Jane Away, everything construction-wise was straightforward, just as the proposed plans match the as-built, match the site visit. The only thing worth noting really is the swing set in the back was partly behind the conservation markers, and the yard behind that was also manicured. Some options are to complete with ongoing conditions, such as keeping the conservation markers in perpetuity, and another would be to address minor deviations as a de minimis activity, and include those ongoing conditions as previously mentioned.
So the deviations are the swing set being...
And then he's mowing the lawn. He came back for
Some
de minimis
slight
on the
mowing.
trees. You remember this.
Mhm.
Mike and I talked this over, and we realized we were stuck in a hard place. And the lawn was already cut. And some commissions allow people to maintain it even if it was wetlands and so on. The commission here is seeing the set 25 as the firm point. So we removed vegetative management and mowing, because what it really is the fill of the structure. That's a temporary structure that's going to come out. It's like if I put down the kiddie pool, if I just put down a structure, if it's got water in it, it gets ridiculous. So this is going to come out later, and the grandkids aren't going to want to do this anymore. They might do a yard game or something, but this will be taken out. And so we thought that maybe just going and saying any activity such as fill or structure other than the existing fence, because there's a fence back there, is prohibited beyond the conservation markers. And so that way, anybody who comes in new doesn't think they can go knock the trees down and do whatever,
Okay.
If I may, hello? This is Richard.
Sure, Rick.
Almond.
Hey, Rick,
Oh,
could you just give
hello.
us your name and your
Yeah.
address?
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
It's Rick Almond,
Yeah.
36 Jana Way.
Yep.
Well, I do have the lawn cut, and I had them cut adjacent to the wetland markers. And I was away on business last week, and my wife, who was upset that the grandkids are out there, and my dog was running through the tall grass, and she asked them to cut it down a bit. So we recognize you don't want us to maintain that lawn, and our intent really wasn't to manicure the lawn. What they did was they cut it high, and they cut it around the swing set. If you have the package that has the photos, you can see we put the markers directly next to the swing set. And if you do recall, also I came before you folks about a year and a half ago, to talk about this swing set, because it is, we have grandkids that come over and we use it, and we wanted to make sure you were aware of the swing set, even though the order conditions already indicated that the swing set stretches over the 25, the marker. Let's put it that, okay? So, in any case, I wanted to make sure our intent is to maintain the lawn inboard of the markers, but we're going to have to cut a little bit around the swing set to allow the kids to play around it.
Yeah, that's.
We have dogs, we get ticks. It's a tough area with ticks back there. So it's another issue that we have. But
Thanks for elucidating that, Mr. Amont. We're giving that to you right now, or at least the commission is contemplating it. So thanks for elucidating.
Thank you.
Well, I would recommend that we vote to address the minor deviations as de minimis and issue. Does anyone have a different opinion?
No.
Okay with that, Bert?
Yes, fine.
I move that we vote to address the minor deviations as de minimis activities and approve a complete certificate of compliance for SC 422836 with ongoing conditions. Do you want to read those? Or?
I'm just going to say it's the 4 permanent conservation markers that are cited on the approved as-built. There'll be nothing, they're 30 to 40 inches out of the ground. Yeah, close. And they're basically not going to be allowed to have any fill or structure down gradient of these markers, Mr. Amon, okay? And if you can try to take care of the lawn by letting it grow long when nobody's using it, great. That's a great practice. Cut it periodically. We're trying to be reasonable with you. You've been a good steward.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, may I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Armand, for
Thank you.
filling
Good
us
job
in
on
there.
that, Mike. Nice preparation.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mike
SC
Seeley.
2963, 14E Street. I move that we vote to table this to 6/15/2022. May I have a second?
Second.
Bird.
All in favor?
Aye.
Enforcement orders.
All right, enforcement orders.
So we got town council here for you, Chair Hannafin.
Okay.
I think the Mahaneys may be here also.
So we have the enforcement order at 46 Preston Terrace. The house has been sold. We have not been provided with adequate documentation regarding our enforcement order. And is Alex is here as town council. So, how do we proceed? This is a curious one. Alex, can you help us out?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Alex Whiteside from KP Law. It's my understanding, I reviewed some of the documentation that was recently submitted by the Mahaney's. I understand there was an as-built plan that was prepared, I think, back in 2015, 2016. There was mention in the letter that they submitted. The notice of intent was filed at that time. But I don't believe an order of, Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe an order of conditions was issued. Is that correct?
You've got it correct. There were actually two NOIs that were started and just fizzled out. They never got to the closure, the approval, and the issuance stage. They never got recorded. They were never followed. So there was no need for an as-built associated with any order of conditions that never got submitted. So that really was, it's a nice document, but it is what we're looking for. The commission wanted a restoration plan, and it was very clear. It was about the delineation of specific resource areas. So.
I believe that this enforcement order is now on the new owner of the property. It travels with the property, does it not?
Madam Chair, it probably would be prudent for the commission to issue a new enforcement order naming the new property owners. But before we go there, I think it would be a good idea to hear from the Mahaney. Are the Mahaneys there?
Yes.
Okay, I think it'd be good to hear from them about what their intention is at this point.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. Mahaney, would you like to address us?
Can we get your address and names for the record, please?
Donna Mahaney,
Address?
46 Preston Terrace.
You guys aren't living there though anymore?
No,
What's the address? There you guys?
we're on a rental in Hummerock, Revere Street.
Gotcha, Hummer Rock. Okay. Okay, very good.
So yes, we do have a notice of intent. We do have the as-built that was recorded with the DEP in Lakeville. And we also have the court notice as to what we had to do to rectify what we had done. And then we had so then we went with the notice of intent. We filed. We did the work that they came out, the engineers came out. They worked with Mr. Jay Wennemer and Mr. Jerry O'Neill. And they were there, came out 5 times and restored the bank, or Peabody Road to the bank. And that was mainly what we were told to do, is what we did. And I don't know what else we could restore with that property. It was restored to the original.
So, last time we were here, I forget, it was January 18th or what date it was pretty clear that we need a restoration plan. I've been in touch with the prior conservation administrator, and like I said, there's been 5 enforcement orders on this property, 2 notice of intents that never got completed, so we wouldn't have gone to the as-built. You might have done an as-built for perhaps a septic system or something like that, I don't know, but there was no order of conditions issued, which would trigger a filing for a request for certificate of compliance, Form 8A, which would then close it out, and you get a certificate of compliance 8B. And usually you get an as-built as per Article 37 back then, which was the town's wetland regulations, which became Chapter 505. So there's a little bit of differences here on what we need, the commission needs. The commission asked for a restoration plan delineating the resource areas, and as I told, I think I spoke to you about this, and I did say in the meeting that if we had the delineation, a large portion of this might be settled right there because of that, because it's outside of jurisdictional boundaries, and that would take care of that. But there might be some activities. So I did talk to Jay Wintermer, and he said something about the storm drain was the way to go. That would take pressure off the O'Leary property, and that's probably a sensible solution. In a prior communication from, I believe, Mr. Mahaney, and the timeline that I got from him, and also one from John O'Leary, it looked like he was ready to go do that. You were ready to go do the storm drain, It never got completed. So we've asked for the restoration plan under the enforcement order, not the as-built that you gave us from 2015. And that was asked for in 2022, so we'd be looking for a current resource restoration plan. And I thought that's what you were going to be getting. And then you asked for an extension, and you needed time until, I believe, mid-May, in order to get a new consultant, because the consultant you had retired or is not available, et cetera. And this is what actually happened. So the as-built, although we appreciate it, and Mr. Mahaney's letter, we appreciate that, it doesn't satisfy what the commission was looking for. The commission was looking for a restoration plan. And that's all.
And we still don't understand. I mean,
We could have had a meeting and I could have explained it to you.
Well, that was the thing in March. You did say that you would meet with us,
So,
and that never happened.
the burden is on you to settle it. Get the time with me, I'd be happy to do that. I have staff who will set up appointments with me. They own my time. I have meetings all the time, and they set me up, and I meet so many people. And I solve a lot of problems.
Well, I thought that you said you were busy that week and that you would get in touch,
I don't make my own appointments typically, so I wouldn't have gotten into that kind of conversation with you.
because we have talked to several people. I don't understand what you mean by restoring.
So you need to meet with
Yes.
Bill. If you contact the Conservation Office, Liz, the admin assistant, will make an appointment so that you can sit down and it can be explained so that it is very, very clear
Yes,
what we need.
because it hasn't been clear.
Okay.
And we have talked to some conservation people, and they didn't understand what this enforcement order was. After we got together with all this, they didn't understand it either, so.
Well, I think
Jay and I are on the same page on that, so it's gotta
Bill
be
can,
resolved.
clarify. He can.
Please, it
You are
would
familiar
be
with the
helpful.
entire arc of what has happened here, and he can tell you exactly what we require to remove this enforcement.
Yes,
But it will
because,
require restoration.
But if I was in compliance with conservation back then on the work I had to do, if I was in compliance with building department, if I was in compliance with everybody that was basically supervising the restoration, why are we here tonight after I've already done it once?
To be fully in compliance with us, you would have needed to have received a certificate of compliance, which never happened. Is that correct, Bill?
So there were,
Correct.
there's two pathways. Alex helped me. So you were asked for, this has been going back since about 2003. There were two notice of intents filed. That's the application. They never got completed. Therefore, that work never got done under that. I think that you may have been communicating with different departments and kind of moving your way forward, but it didn't get completed, okay? I talked to my predecessor, and he agreed that it hasn't been completed. It needs to get completed.
The NOI is just the first step.
And because
You
both,
submit that, but then there's more that has to transpire.
in 2016, my first hearing, they had so many continuations that they voted to terminate that and deny on that application and go to enforcement. And then we've been working our way forward on that, and we asked for a restoration plan, and we didn't get the restoration plan. And there was a deadline on that, and then you had consultant issues. So I just want to lay the facts out there. We're here to help you. This burden doesn't go away until it's resolved. As I said before, just by delineating alone, possibly up to 80% of the concerns go away, and we have now design freeze, and we can target on what needs to be done. And I still think it's going to be the drain in the road, based upon what Jay told me, what I've picked up from the engineers who I've talked to also, which apparently you would also talk to, Mr. Mahaney.
Yes, I
So
have.
we can close the loop on all that, and I have a timeline from you and a timeline from Mr. O'Leary. So there's really very little wiggle room left. We need the restoration plan, the delineation, and then the approach to solve the problem. And if the problem, to take the pressure off of down gradient at O'Leary's, is to put the storm drain in and have the water go out in an area that will be acceptable to commission and functional, then that's what's going to get done.
Well, that's what the DPW told me they were going to do.
Well, they're not gonna do that apparently, so they
Well,
didn't do that. And
You can't get rid of the water unless you put a drain there.
I'm not disagreeing with you pragmatically. Jay Wenham thinks the same thing, but we don't have the restoration plan, the delineation, okay? And we don't have the, part of that restoration is what to do. And to your point, it's probably that storm drain, because you and I and Jay agree to that. And I think the engineers will also agree to that, and it's as simple as that. We still need the delineation. We need the restoration plan. We close this out, and then at the end, you get a dissolution letter, it's gone. All those years, just wipes it out, it cleans it up.
Okay?
So
We're
we
gonna
work
meet-
together- yeah, you
we
meet with
can-
me.
We can meet once more, so we can discuss.
If we need to meet, I'm gonna bring a commissioner in so there's no confusion, okay? And I'll update Mike, here, Alex, I'll update the town administrator, and I'll update the chair, so that's all taken care of, okay? And so that they'll have full confidence we're moving forward, but we need to go straight line now and put an end to it for you guys, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd
all
be
right.
happy to do
So I
that.
have your cells, I have your emails. Why don't we plan on you reaching out tomorrow to my office and contact Liz and get an appointment with me, all right? And then I'll find the commissioners available at your discretion, and then four of us will meet, and we'll get through this, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
And meanwhile, Alex, I still want to go down the other pathway. I want to meet with Mike Maresco and you and Craig to make sure we're satisfied the commission's pace, and that's happening separate, and then we'll close the loop on everything when you get done. Okay?
Okay.
Does that sound like it works for you, Alex?
It does. Thank you.
Chair Hannafin, are you good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry if I kind of took that one. I just want to
No,
help everybody
no, you
get there.
have more history with it.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
So, thank you for coming in. Make an appointment with him, and we'll move forward.
So tomorrow you'll call Liz, and that's how we'll kick it all off. Okay. And we're already on the same page with Rahini, so it's gonna make it happen, you know? Very good.
Yeah, if we know what needs to be done, we just have to get it done. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah, take
Thank
care.
you, you too.
All right, thank you, Madam
So,
Chair.
Thank you, Alex. Great
thank
job.
you.
Thanks, Bill.
Is it possible to sell up?
So I move,
They did.
Yeah, we gotta change that one, don't we?
yeah, I moved that,
We still need a meeting with Mike, okay? So,
well, I would say meet with the Mahaneys first.
One way to get out of an enforcement order.
I think we need both.
All right.
So we do that one, and then we add another one. I get a meeting with a commissioner, take pressure off you, maybe you.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
They could say, well,
Yeah.
And I meet with the
It's on
commissioner
fire.
and the Mahaneys, so that I got somebody who's got eyes on it, you know?
Okay.
Two votes, I would say.
So the first vote is to, first I move that we vote to direct the Conservation Administrator to coordinate a corrective action meeting with myself, the Chair, Town Council Weiser, and Town Administrator, Mr. Maresco. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And then the second one, I'll do for you. Vote to direct the Conservation Administrator to coordinate a meeting with the Mahaneys and another commissioner other than the chair.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, good.
And lastly, B8, the enforcement order at 987 Ocean Street, where we have had a lack of responsiveness. Mr. Holmesy contacted us and said he had been having some personal issues that affected his response, and Mr. Rego responded that he has a badly broken leg, has been in the hospital, and has been out of commission. So I move that we vote to establish new deadlines for feedback on the subject of the abutter communications by 12 noon, Wednesday, June 8th, and submittal of a revised restoration plan by 12 noon, Friday, July 15th. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then finally, that brings us back to B6.
So before we do B6, this is the best chance you ever have of leaving. I'm telling you, it's got to keep you busy.
You gotta tie him to the chair first.
Hey, I know how to tie you down. I can teach me it easy.
I already remote started my automobile, so.
I would welcome Mr. O'Donnell as a commissioner. Does anybody?
No, I would agree.
So I have a suggestion. When I worked in sales, they had this thing called jump ball where everybody go for the project. So they came up with different groups and teams and like that. And anybody who had the same name had to have a nickname. So we're gonna have to have a nickname for John somehow. Or Bert, one of you two, you know?
So, assuming you are game to move forward, I would move that we continue the process, which
I would
goes
take,
to the select board.
Yeah, I'll notify Mike, and Mike will take it from there.
Okay.
And then it goes through the process, the gears are, they have their meeting schedules, they do a background check, they do, et cetera. They always do that.
Yeah, I am aware of that. We all are. So, may I have a second?
Second?
Joe?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome, nearly almost aboard. One more step.
It's the salary. That's
Yeah.
the way it works.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like pending
This is
salary.
why we get paid the big
I'm gonna tell
bucks.
Mike that. It's
They'll
pending
give you
salary.
3 times what we're getting.
Yeah, right.
Did you apply for free agency?
Do you need to close your meeting, Madam Chair?
Question, Bill. Have we had any other applications for conservation?
Yeah, we had one other guy who applied after John had reached us. I think he got to us about 2 weeks or so. I've been talking to John maybe, I don't know, we started talking like early April. I think we talked to John in Marchish, so John was ahead of him in the queue.
Okay, John's application was in
Ahead of
earlier.
the other one.
Definitely.
David Good is the other guy. Very impressive. He's very impressive.
So, we
Very
have
good.
him on the bench. I move that we close the June 1st, 2022 Marshfield Conservation Commission meeting. May I have a second?
Second?
Susan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. That was a meeting, huh? Oh, man.
Excellent.